I'm Alex Pault, editor at large with Electronic Design. And today I wanted to talk with one of our industry experts on the topic of the current state of the market and supply chain and what it's looking like for the design engineering community. So we reached out to Avnet and we got in touch with Rebecca Obregon Jimenez, Avnet's Senior Vice President of Strategic Business Engagements and Supplier Management, to talk about these topics because, well, as a major distributor, you do have a bit of a pulse, a finger on the pulse of the industry, don't you, Rebecca? Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Yeah, just a little, I would say.
Well, there's been a lot going on in the space, especially when you think about, the supply chain and how people design and develop today driven by recent, health and political situations. It's kind of metamorphosized into its own problem, hasn't it? The supply chain has got issues and they're not all COVID related anymore, are they?
Correct. I think there's been a series of events that have led us to where we are today. I think if we look back, that we had some natural disasters, and again, talking about the impact on the semiconductor supply chain. Then after that, of course, we had the pandemic. And there we observed some changes in consumer behavior, with people being at home, more PCs, more consumer products, et cetera, everything for the home, and automotive sales were down. So that started this shift. And so then when automotive wanted to come back, people started to buy cars again. All that capacity had been reallocated. So we started to get this shortage of the chips for automotive that then had kind of a trailing effect. Then it permeated to a lot of other technologies, and really a lot of the shortages have been in the older technology nodes, where capacity was not necessarily being added. Today, I know that now, a couple of years later, things have shifted again, and we hear that there's some over inventory issues, but there's still shortages in other places. So we're in a very unique place where I would say, in short, the supply chain is unbalanced. There's surpluses in some areas, still shortages in others. Capacity is being added for those older technology nodes, but it's not so much again in the older nodes and more in the state-of-the-art latest nodes. So it's going to take some time for it to be rebalanced.
It's almost an interesting dichotomy because the tools for development and the procedures and methodologies and the industry is so well prepared now to make more things better, and the supply chain is holding them back from when you think about, at the same time COVID was disrupting the supply chain, it was forcing companies to use more advanced collaborative development software tools, for example.
Yes, absolutely. But again, I think it was that shift from consumer products to automotive to high-end compute or storage. And each of those, they're not all created equal, right? They all use different technologies, and the capacity is not the same for all. And that's what created, I think, a lot of the investments were in the latest technology nodes. And there was just not enough in just more of the legacy technologies that were required for a lot of the consumer products, a lot of the automotive products, and that's what started creating some of this shifting. Then you add to that, you mentioned in the beginning, the geopolitical, which has initiated another very different dynamic. And that dynamic is really, it's become, semiconductor industry has become a very global industry. And so now there's been a shift from, not shift, but it's a transition to adding regional supply chains. And so we have seen that evolving, which is also adding a more complexity to the supply chains. Companies want to be able to solve their supply chain solutions within specific regions while still being global companies addressing global needs. So that has added to the complexity of the supply chain.
Now, when you think about all of the different factors, what would you say are the two biggest issues? Let's not try to make it a race and go 1, 2, 3, but what would you say are the two biggest factors going forward? Because there are a lot of issues that will eventually in the near future be sorted out. But what would you say are the two big issues that we have to be mindful of if we're going to fix this thing in the long run?
Well, I would say one is, let me start with what's driving it. And there's a lot in the past, there would be one technology, right, that would drive the increase for semiconductors and then the decrease. Today, we have multiple drivers, whether it's automotive, the transition to EV, whether it's high-end compute, data, all about data, 5G. So there's many drivers. And so we, it's not going to be one of these that it increases and decreases, the traditional cycles that we have seen. There's many cycles that you can see that are kind of superimposed that are driving this demand for semiconductors. So when we look at the two things, if I bring it down to two, I would say one is having visibility. What we have seen from a lot of our customers that are big manufacturers of products, contract manufacturers that want to have full visibility into their supply chain, which they didn't have before. They would look 1 or 2 levels down and then the supply chain would continue. So this, now they have to have this full visibility because otherwise they have the infamous golden screw, one small device that is not allowing them to ship something that may be worth tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars. So I would say the number one thing would be visibility. The second thing is digital tools and how we are continuing to evolve. Of course, who hasn't heard of AI and ChatGPT? And we've been doing that for a long time, just in different, we would call it machine learning, digital enablement, many different names, but now it's coming together as overall AI and having an overall AI strategy so that we're able to utilize the data that we have and be able to provide solutions for the supply chain challenges that we face.
Right now, thinking about solutions and tools to address the supply chain challenges, what are some of the things that Avnet and your partners doing to address those challenges?
So, one of the things, and this is actually one of the services that we have had, but of course now it's becoming very popular, I would say, and it's what I would call supply chain as a service. And basically, it's where we act as that control tower to give full visibility to our customers into their entire supply chain. So rather than having to manage, 40 different suppliers, we're able to do that for our customers and give them that full visibility, and not only the visibility, but also all of the distribution of the components and manage that supply chain for them. So that's something that we've been doing. Another thing is being able to put, I think again with COVID, another thing that happened is just the work at home and the hybrid. Our customers range from an engineer in a basement to one of the top contract manufacturers in the world. So we have digital tools to be able to allow these designers to design the systems from wherever they're at, whether it's a major company or an individual engineer. So through our design tools, they're able to design their systems, and then we're able to offer basically buying a single, few parts to build their prototypes, all the way to them launching to production with our standard distribution models.
Got it. Because, I'm actually starting to see supply chain management tied directly into the development process where, the engineering team, either the software is doing it if they're using, a development software that is tied into the supply chain, or one of the development engineers is actively looking up availability of the parts while they're designing. So they may actually decide to switch the parts choice in mid-design just based on the supply chain.
Absolutely. And that is what they can do with our tool. They can design based on products that are available today, and we can offer them different options, and they're able to do that, actively. So we're solving it from the design perspective, giving them options to design products that they're actually able to build based on the product availability.
Got it. Now, before I let you go, Rebecca, do you have any final thoughts or any additional points you wanted to make on the topic?
Well, I would just say that, again, I think at Avnet, we have many different tools and models to be able to solve these supply chain challenges, not solve, but maybe help in these supply chain challenges for our customers and suppliers, right? Our role here is to connect our suppliers to our customers, giving them options for resilient supply chains. And we're very well positioned for that.
Very good. I can't think of anything else to add to that except, we should always make sure that we have the supply before we start planning on building the product. And thank you for taking the time to explain that to us.
Thank you for the time.
And I'd like to thank all of you out there for taking the time to watch us. Thanks. We appreciate that as well.